Okay, we'll get started. Roll call. Christie?
Kyle,
Here.
Larry,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Here.
Brian, Danielle, here, Jeremy,
Here.
Greg,
Here.
Jim. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Yeah, come. Okay, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I have proof of publication for both the items on the agenda for today. Anyone desiring to speak on any item or issue not on the agenda or any item on the agenda that does not include a public hearing may do so, but still be limited to 3 minutes. Person should identify themselves by name and address. Person speaking should not expect the planning commission to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding their comments. Unless an agenda item includes a public hearing, no person may speak during the business portion of the meeting, provided, however, that persons speaking during public hearing are limited to between 5 and 20 minutes. The public is advised that a copy of the Open Meeting Act is located on the north wall of the council chamber, and one copy of all reproducible written material to be discussed at this meeting is available upon examination or copying. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll approve the agenda.
Second. Greg. All right.
Sorry, who made the motion? Thank you. Who
Scott.
seconded it?
Great. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Or change if there's any errors.
Make motion to approve.
Kyle, second. Okay, all approved, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, first item on the agenda is 116 East Richmond and Northfield, consideration request for changing zoning code to allow yards to not be hard surface.
Okay, this one's gonna be really quick. So I met with the trailer sales guy over there. He wants to take the lot north of him, the empty, it's a cornfield now. I told him there was somewhere in our code that I could have sworn it said that he could put crushed rock down for trailer sales at the time of that meeting. That's what I thought. Of course, today I'm looking through and I found it in another area. He is allowed to. So this particular line item, he's allowed to do what he's asking. I can show you guys if you want to see it, but under C1, general commercial, there's a use limitation number 8, motor vehicle, boat, or trailer, rental, or sales lots shall be drained and surfaced with crushed rock or pavement, except in those portions of the lot maintained as a landscaping area. So he's allowed to do it. So this was, I couldn't find it, and I could have sworn I had seen it somewhere, and I did, but I could not find it in the meeting that I had with him. So this one doesn't matter.
So you're withdrawing this one?
I'm withdrawing it. Yeah, he's allowed to do what he wants to do, so.
Does he come back to us for anything? What kind of landscaping is he gonna do you know? What are, I guess, my question is, do we have a requirement for something like that? I mean,
Yeah.
just a lot?
Yeah, so he's commercial. So the conversation that I had with him is when we change our commercial design standards, we're going to figure out if he has to put up fencing. If he does, then he has to have a landscape barrier around it, which he has drainage ditches on at least 2 or 3 of his sides anyway, so he has a natural landscape barrier anyways.
Okay.
But the conversations I've had with him is he has to abide. He's going to have to screen it. He's going to have to put a landscape barrier up, which is part of his conversation of, hey, if I have to do all that, he doesn't mind, but then, crushed rock would make a little more sense. And I agree with him, and that's why I originally had this on here, but he's allowed to do it. So yes, he still has to abide by the commercial design standards that we passed maybe a year ago, which
Okay.
includes landscaping. It's because he's up against a residential
I didn't know
district.
with the building,
There is
building or anything.
residential
how
across the
that
street.
fell.
Yeah, there's still residential requirements, so he'd have to put up screening, and with the screen fence comes I want to say an 8-foot area that has to be landscaped, and it states what type of landscaping you need. There's mulch requirements, there's plant requirements, so, yeah,
So this is actually removed by the applicant,
yes,
that's how we put it in the minutes.
yeah.
Okay. Move on to number 9. TC West Athletic Facility, consideration of request for waiver of site design standards. This would be on their new sports complex. 44.5 acres.
So I'll let them speak on it. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update of what I just passed out to you guys, the waiver from site design standards. So when we did our commercial stuff, again, a year ago, Scott just brought it up, we kept the waiver in for items, in my opinion, particularly like this, right? I mean, if you're wanting to build a strip mall right up against the road, you're gonna have to abide by our commercial design standards. If you're building what these guys are building, hundreds of feet off of the main road, it doesn't really make sense to make, in my opinion, that's where this waiver's for. So you guys are in it, affirmative vote of at least 4 planning commissioners shall be necessary to grant a waiver. It also goes to council after, but you guys, obviously being planning and zoning, have a pretty big say in the waiver. So I'll let them talk about more what they want to do. Again, this particular application, it doesn't, in my opinion, make sense for them to make them put a bunch of brick up and all these things when they're in the middle of their property, pretty far away from anything else. So their photos will show it better too.
It really looked like the CIA got a hold of this. Blacktall was out.
I didn't do that, I promise.
You could read it.
Exactly.
Real quick. I'm Casey Painter with BCDM Architects. On behalf of the school, I was going to head out we have some visuals that kind of help kind of represent this, and then also there's a site plan located in the back.
We like pictures.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
The first couple pages just show kind of some views off of North 264th Street. And then the next couple are just a couple aerials to kind of give you a sense for what these are. Wow. So as part of the project, it's really an athletic facility complex. As part of it, we've got 3 support buildings. One would be a concessions restrooms building. Another would be a softball, baseball press box. And then the other one is a football press box. So as part of this, they are masonry structures for the first level, and then wood siding above. And all the buildings are located 400 feet or more away from 264th Street. So this is the really the extent of the building scope of it.
This is all gonna be turf, right?
Correct.
Any other questions?
So those are the only buildings that you're talking about?
Correct. It's just 3 support buildings. Yep, that'll be located on the property.
All right, this is just a general question. and
Yep.
Are you gonna have a place where the players or whatever, if they're arriving from a distance, will be able to change clothes? Are you,
There's a future plan in order to incorporate like a team meeting room. But at this point, there won't be any locker rooms designated, that there's restrooms.
so
and
there will be plans for that? Because I'm just saying, if there's a problem coming, I can see that might be it. If people are traveling from a distance and they need to change their clothes and there's no place to do that at the facility, then, okay.
And they'll be given a location within the high school that they can change. They'll have locker rooms they'll have access to, and then they'll bus them over prior to games.
All right.
They can run over and warm up.
Uh-huh.
Is the present football field gonna stay football field, or what's gonna become of that?
Correct. The intent would be for the football field to be maintained and be utilized for junior high and other activities.
Okay. So this is gonna be all new, these bleachers aren't gonna be reutilized from the other one.
Nope, correct, those will stay at the existing facility.
Okay.
How many parking stalls do you have there, just out of curiosity, do you know offhand?
125.
Melissa, how many? Just throw out a number. We don't-
312.
Yeah, we'll agree with you.
312.
312.
41 and 44 and 68 times 3.
Not 313.
Count 'em. Any other questions? Any questions for the Nebraska Superintendent of the Year? While she's sitting here. Superintendent of the Year for Nebraska. Pretty good, huh?
And this, I mean, just to reiterate, these buildings would mostly pass our highway design. There's just 20% transparency requirements. For example, garage doors need to have window. I mean, there are some things in there that,
From a security standpoint.
right, security and just, again, it doesn't really make sense in this application. The buildings, to be fair, masonry and wood siding, it's a pretty nice looking building. It just, our design standards for commercial are pretty strict and have quite a few specific things that they would not reach with this, but mainly transparency is kind of the main one.
Correct.
With windows, so.
What's your time frame on this project?
Construction, they've already started to move grading, so the intent is to have some of the fields open for fall of next year. Fall of 25.
Football
Football for this fall, yep.
and future plans on the rest of the ground is
That's what I was just.
It's more opportunities for additional
maybe cross-country or something?
cross-country. Yeah, the intent would be that they could have a location and map out like a cross-country course within it.
Great. Any other questions for anybody here? All right. I'd ask for a motion on item number 9, consideration of the waiver.
Make a motion to approve, to recommend approval.
Mark? Second?
I'll second the motion.
Scott? Voice vote. Christie?
Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Danielle. Yes. Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
motion carried.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 10A, Prominence Global LLC, Catalina, consideration of substandard and blighted study.
Hi, Andrea Griffin, City Attorney's Office. Just wanted to kind of give you guys an overview of what we're doing here. This is the Prominence Global project, which was presented to you in detail in August. This is the next step, which is the blight and substandard designation, which kicks off their TIF requests in that procedure. So that's what this particular item is here today. And Kevin is here from JEO to kind of run through the blight and substandard study with you to make sure to answer any questions you guys may have. So.
Thank you very much. Kevin Anderson, JEO Consulting Group.
You're on walk-up music.
Sorry about that.
Your arm just went off.
JEO was engaged by the development team to do a blight and substandard analysis for the area. The study's in your packet. I'll specifically call out page 9, figure 1, to take a look at the area that was studied. If some of you will remember, this exact area was studied and I believe approved by the body about 2 years ago under a different development proposal and developer. That developer, the option for the property had expired, so we've got a new development team looking at the similar area. So JEO was engaged to essentially refresh and take another look at that blight and substandard study to ensure that those conditions of blight and substandard by statute are in fact still there. And that's the findings of the current update of blight and substandard as we look at some of this area. I know you're no stranger to the concept, but just kind of for the record, just reiterate what blight and substandard means, is, and what it can do, and what it means for a potential redevelopment area. Contrary to the fairly nasty nomenclature, blight and substandard is a fairly objective analysis of conditions of the neighborhood. It's not a reflection of the value or viability of properties within the study area, but collectively as an area, it's a means by which we can look at some areas that may impact potential and future development of a particular study area. And those things can be objective as age of infrastructure and structures within the study area. It can be issues that are not at all reflective of current land use within the study area. It can be irregular parcel layout. It can be irregular street layouts within the area. And given that within the study area, we've essentially got an expressway running tangent to that, it cuts off a lot of areas for proper vehicular access and due to limited access, which can then in turn impact the economic viability of the whole area, not necessarily individual properties themselves within the study area. So again, I just reiterate, it is not a reflection of or have any impact to property values or viability of individual properties within the area. The old planning adage is Warren Buffett lives in a blighted area. So anyone in here finds themselves in pretty good company in terms of how some of these areas are analyzed and what it can mean for future redevelopment opportunities. So again, most of the analysis are objective, taking a look at age of structure, census data, whatever it might be. Some of the more subjective areas relate to things like lot layouts, street access, condition of properties or infrastructure within that area. So there is some assurance for property owners within the area, property owners around the area, that there is no negative reflection of the properties themselves, nor no impact at all whatsoever to property values or anything like that. So those are frequently the concerns we hear when doing this kind of analysis, and when this kind of, again, relatively nasty nomenclature is placed on a property, even though they're extremely frequent occurrences throughout any neighborhood or community that's anything older than 20, 30, 40 years old. Again, a refresh of essentially an approval that occurred about 2 years ago, the study, and I'm here to kind of reiterate that those conditions that were found initially at that time are still prevalent and still meet the statutory requirements for blight and substandard. Since the time that JO was engaged, I think we've got a new kind of development financing structure, and I bring that up in the sense that while the study area is what's shown here in Figure 1, that doesn't necessarily have to be the final blight and substandard area approved by City Council. So in working with Andrea on behalf of the development team, I think we've got a path forward for this group that says we can approve the area essentially as proposed here in Figure 1 with the condition that a smaller area may in fact be the area that's reflected in the final designation by City Council, so long as it still collectively meets the statutory requirements for blight and substandard. And JO would update that study based off of a essentially new study area that better reflects our intentions for how this is ultimately developed.
So that could come down to just a project?
Absolutely, yeah. We can take any portion of the proposed area, the proposed blight initial study, and reduce that down, so long as it still meets the qualifications. So that'll be what we're asking is a part of your recommendation on to City Council and a part of your motion that it's conditioned on any reduced area still has to meet the statutory requirements of light and substandard.
But that's the city council.
Based off of recommendation of planning commission. Yeah, correct, yeah, city council makes the final say upon the recommendation of.
So they could bring it down to just the commercial area.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for this gentleman? If not, I'll open the public hearing for any public comments, proponents or opponents, if there's any. Don't rush to the microphone now. One at a time. Okay. I guess I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from the planning commission members? Any further discussion? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
Make a motion to recommend approval.
I'll second it. Voice vote. Christie?
Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Danielle. Yes. Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
motion carried.
Motion carried. Item 10B, Providence Global LLC, Catalina, amendment to the future land use map, consideration of change of to the future land use map designation. Greg? That'd be you.
No, Ruben and I were just talking about this. Basically, we're amending the future land use map to conform to the proposed project. This has kind of been a fluid thing over the last 5 years. Basically, if you think way back, the comp plan had commercial along the corridor, so the project is still intending to do the commercial along the corridor, and then you put the public property right behind it, and then it transitions to the residential that will go to the north and also east towards the King Lake low density area as well. So in general, we're just massaging the boundaries on the future land use maps to conform to the actual development now versus actually really any holistic changes to what the comp plan originally intended for it.
And there's no spot zoning because you've got, like Greg was saying, you have up here and here, future land use is all residential. So you're right next to it. I mean, it's not spot zoning. We're not dropping a industrial in there. It makes sense with just how everything is around it in the future land use map. So.
The only correction, Greg, I saw on the E&A letter is they say that our water comes from MUD.
Oh, I can see that here.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm concerned about, you're talking about the areas around there and then in there. Who's gonna control the lighting? In other words, the lighting in this could be an issue, especially against 275, against the residentials, against
Are you
everything else. So I know that but since it's gonna be in there, it is gonna become an issue.
So are you talking specifically this area that they're looking to change, or the light from these?
Both. In other words, where's 275?
Right here.
All right, now, you understand if you've got lighting, that's gonna,
So our code, our commercial code already had it, but we reiterated it. The code for lighting is, with the new lighting that they have now, is it has to shine on the field. And with the LEDs and with how they're able to do that, it can limit a lot of that light shine. You might be able to speak a little bit more on it, Greg, as the engineer. But a lot of the newer lighting ones, they don't have the big halogen that kind of just shoot it everywhere.
so it won't impact the areas, the gray areas you had, or the commercial, or the residential by the lake. That's not gonna have
No,
any impact.
if there's a lot of light wash, they're gonna get an email from me stating, or really it's gonna be a letter from me that says, hey, you have to make sure you adjust your lights to make sure they're just shining on the
Okay.
fields.
As long as there's a way to control it,
Yeah.
that's what my concern is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for Greg or no? All right, I'll open the public hearing. Any public comments, proponents or opponents? Boy, what a dead crowd today. All right, I'll close the public hearing. Further discussion by the planning commission members? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Don't everybody speak at once.
It's not like we have to take turns, but.
I'm getting tired of having my name.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Danielle,
I'll
second?
second.
Oh,
Thank you.
voice vote?
Kyle,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Danielle,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Motion carried. Anything else, Room?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No.
Nothing drastic coming up? Just gonna bite us,
Not that we haven't already,
talk about.
yeah, we're kind of over the hump now. For a while there was a lot coming up, but back to smooth sailing.
Now we just sit back and watch Jeff back there build all this.
Right. Yeah, our hard part is done at this
Did you
point.
want to say anything, Jeff?
No.
Smart
Okay,
man.
I'd ask for a motion to adjourn, if you want to.
So moved.
Greg, second.
Get me in there.
Larry, did
I'll
you second it?
I'll second it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
See you next month.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
They're on the
That we knew would we're going to meet with and we just now got redevelopment coming from the.
Why did it stay?
Yeah, but I don't know, he didn't make it to the city council.
I'm gonna-